Thank you. And 9/11 families now speaking out about those terror trials coming to New York City. Eric Shawn is live for us in downtown New York. Eric.
Yeah, Trace, they were protesting the upcoming terror trials of the 9/11 suspects here in New York City. In the shadow of the Statue of Liberty, they announced they will hold a rally here in New York next week against the Obama administration to put those suspects in federal civilian court here in downtown Manhattan. The group, 9/11 Never Forget.us, they've got a petition, 120,000 signatures. Among the speakers, Congressman Peter King, who's a ranking member of the Homeland Security Committee. They say that they fear this could bring September 11 too. But in Washington, 2 other widows spoke out for the trials, saying they've been waiting 8 years for American justice. Trace?
Eric Shawn live for us in New York. Eric, thank you. Now more on this with Martha.
That's right. The 9/11 Never Forget Coalition that Eric was just referring to spoke out in a big way today. They do not want to see the terror trials set here in this country, much less in New York City, and they are not backing down. One victim's family member making a plea to the president.
2 weeks ago, 300 9/11 family members sent a letter to the president telling him we adamantly oppose this foolish, dangerous, and unnecessary act. The letter was never acknowledged.
All right, that's Deborah Burlingame, of course. She is the sister of one of the pilots of the planes that went down on that fateful day on September 11th. Republican Congressman Peter King of New York was there today in support of what those families are standing for. And David Reams is joining me as well. He represents 20 Guantanamo Bay detainees, and he just returned from Gitmo last week. Gentlemen, welcome. It's good to have both of you here. First of all, Congressman King, thanks for being here. Let me ask you your thoughts on what Deborah Burlingame had to say in that quote. She said that a letter was sent expressing the opinion of all of these families and that there was no response from the White House. Is that okay?
No, it isn't. I think in a case of this magnitude, and considering all the personal tragedy, that the administration, the president, and the attorney general owed it to the families to give them some indication or some notice of what they were going to do, especially since there were so many families who were strongly opposed to it. I think the president owed them the courtesy of letting them know what was going to happen rather than have the attorney general announce the decision when the president was on his way to Asia. So I think it was bad form on the president's part. It's probably the least of the mistakes he's made on this, but I thought it was very bad form and very much a slight to the families who've already gone through so much.
Peter, what do the families hope to accomplish? I mean, at this point, realistically, can they stop this process from happening and turn the clock back and come out with a new outcome?
Well, they are hoping to generate enough attention, enough controversy, and also, by the force of their arguments, somehow convince the president and the attorney general to change direction. Probably more realistic, though, is the fact that this may prevent other Guantanamo detainees from being brought to the United States for trial. So ideally it would be to stop all the trials. Maybe on a more realistic level is to stop it at these 5 detainees, and that's it, and then have the rest be tried before military tribunals. All
right, let's bring in David Reams, who has some experience with these detainees at Guantanamo Bay. What do you think about that? Is this setting a precedent for what we're going to see? Are we going to see the rest of them also come here and be tried in civilian courts?
Well, for one thing, I want to congratulate Representative King on bringing hundreds of millions of dollars into New York to beef up security and protect against terrorist attacks. I think we all owe him a debt of gratitude for that. I don't think that holding the trials in the United States, and particularly in New York, presents any real issue for concern. We've had major terrorism trials in the United States and in New York. As far as the 9/11 defendants go, we tried Moussaoui, the so-called 20th hijacker, in Alexandria, hundreds of yards away from the Pentagon. There was no security issue there. And finally, the New York City Police Department, the U.S. Marshals, the Federal Protective Service, and all of the relevant law enforcement agencies are taking extraordinary measures to assure security there.
And David, you're looking at this with a very, cool head, and the history of other terror trials that have been taken here. The problem is that a lot of Americans don't feel that way. They don't feel that this terrorism trial is like all of those others. Moussaoui would have been the 20th hijacker, but he was not. Peter King, how do you respond to that, though? How do you respond to the claim that it's been handled before and handled efficiently and well with the right outcome?
Well, first, let me thank Mr. Reams for his kind words. I appreciate that. No, I think to me the overriding issue is, first of all, it's definitely going to increase the terror threat to New York. I have great faith in the NYPD and the U.S. Marshal Service, but the Federal Protective Service has said that they don't have enough personnel right now, and they're going to try to get them in time for the trial. But it is going to definitely heighten the level of terror threat to New York, and that's a reality, and it's going to be police taken from something else who are going to be assigned to this. But to me, the more overriding issue is, this is where Mr. Reeves and I, I'm sure, have a very honest but forceful difference, is that I think we're going back to a pre-September 11th mindset by allowing these defendants to have constitutional rights and be tried in a civilian court, when I believe they should be treated as enemy combatants in before a military tribunal, because it's going to me, change the rules of warfare here. I believe when these detainees are captured, that they should be interrogated, and we should try to get information out of them rather than have to prepare for a trial.
Yeah, David, what do you say to the argument that, we didn't try those who committed Pearl Harbor here on our soil, and also those who look at, different cases that we've watched go by, O.J. Simpson, for example, that have left people feeling that the justice system did not work in this country?
Well, I think you're mixing a lot of things together here. We tried the blind sheik in New York. He's the one who was responsible for blowing up the World Trade Center. Thank God it wasn't worse in 1993. It's the place that we tried the people who committed the embassy bombings in 1998. And
but you go back to the first part of. I don't have that much time, so I want you to take the two parts.
I have to answer Mr.
No, but I want you to
King
answer my question, which was why were not the Pearl Harbor people who carried out Pearl Harbor tried here? That was my question, sir.
The issue here is whether or not you treat these actions as violations of the law or as war crimes, I suppose.
That's
I don't
exactly
want
right.
to make these defendants into war heroes. I don't want to make them into even greater martyrs than they'll be. I think that they should be treated like criminals and tried as criminals, and that actually lowers their stature, and it also exalts our system of judicial fairness.
Well, you know what? There's a big divide in this country, and there are people who feel that you do, that it was, a crime, like any other terrorist crime in this country, and there are those who believe that it was the first and, most heinous act of war in the war on terror. And Peter King, I'm guessing you fall into that category.
No, I do. I believe that they are enemy combatants. It is a war, and they should be treated as war criminals. And also, I think it definitely restricts the ability of our forces to get information and to use it against them in the future. Also, I am concerned. I know there have been precautions taken, but I'm very concerned about intelligence that might be gotten out. And also the 1993 and the 1998 cases, that was before we realized that we were involved in an international war with Islamic terrorism. That was, again, the pre-9/11 mindset. I'm afraid we're going back to that.
Yeah, and I just want to say on the way out of this discussion that there are a large number of families who were affected by September 11th who do want to see these trials happen in New York City. They say each one of us lost a loved one, and we are dedicated to justice. And they believe, as you do, David Reams, that justice can be carried out in these courts. So it's one of the fiercest debates of the moment, and we thank you very much for weighing in, gentlemen. David, thank you, David Reams, and Congressman King.